Hello and welcome back to EastEnders Weekly Extra, and we have an interview today with Rebecca Scroggs that we recorded last year.
Yes, back in July 2018 we spoke to her about her time as Tosh on EastEnders and her career afterwards, so her stage career and her current ventures onto television on the TV series Flack.
Yeah, well, Flack's out now, so people can learn a bit more about the TV show Flack and also a bit more about Tosh.
Yeah, and if anyone's interested, Flack is on the W channel in the UK and Pop TV in the United States. So enjoy the interview. We are joined by Rebecca Scroggs, who played Fiona Mackintosh, or better known as Tosh, in EastEnders from the 25th of February to the 11th of December 2014. Hello, Rebecca. Thank you again for joining us.
Hi, that's absolutely my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
No problem. So we're going to talk about EastEnders a little bit in a while, but to start off, we're going to talk about how you kind of got the acting bug to start with. Was it something that you did at school, or was there an amateur dramatics group you went to when you were younger?
I just fell in love with acting. I mean, it's really cliched, but it was the school play when I was top year of primary school. I got on stage and I just instantly had this feeling, and even in the rehearsals, such as they were, I was like, I can do this. I just, maybe it was grandiosity, felt like I knew what I wanted to do and felt like I could, you feel like you're good at something. And I just went from there, but I didn't actually get involved in I was quite a shy child, actually. Maybe that's another thing about going on stage. It was like, felt very daring. But when I realised I could cope with it, it was great. But I didn't do much. I went to a few Saturday drama classes, but it kind of stayed quite low key in me until I got to about GCSE when you do drama. And we did a lot of devising work and making up plays based on issues. And I really fell in love with the idea of theatre as a way to communicate ideas, explore, have a point of view. So, I sort of set my heart on working in the theatre and decided to go to university because I also was a student of languages. I studied French and I wanted to do it all. I just thought I want to go to university, I want to study theatre in a sort of theoretical context, like the history of theatre. And I want to do my French. And then I'm going to go to drama school. And luckily it worked out. Luckily it did. So, yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever done any plays in French, or was that something you did at university?
No, well, when I went to study in France for a year, I read some plays in French, and I did a theatre class there. Wasn't really acting because it was acting, but it wasn't. Again, we were studying the plays, so we'd read the bits out. And I've done a couple of readings of French pieces over the years, but I've never acted properly. I'd love to. Why not?
never acted properly.
in French, I mean. Like, yeah.
Oh, right. Because you've done like a few plays, haven't you, prior to when you did EastEnders?
Yeah, most of my work was actually in theatre, really. So when I left drama school, I think I've done plays at the National Theatre, a Tricycle, Soho, toured some Shakespeare around the country a few years ago. Was in Birmingham, about to go to Sheffield to do a play in a couple of weeks. So, and I studied at like drama school where mostly you're learning theatre craft. So it just kind of felt more at home. But TV is something I love doing and has come in more and more as my career goes on. And it's always really exciting. Been lucky to play some very interesting characters such as Tosh. That was a real.
Oh yes, Tosh is a very complex character, wasn't she? In EastEnders?
Yeah, really layered.
Yeah,
she had that real layer to her where she wasn't just that outright villain, was she? She had that softer side to her, which the audience saw. Was that quite important for you, playing Tosh?
Well, definitely, because it was important. I felt when the storyline was sort of presented to me, I jumped at the chance to explore such a complex, difficult issue as domestic violence, and as well as with the same-sex angle in there as well, which hadn't been done before. And it was important to me that she was a complex character because these are always complex situations. And by complex, and I don't mean that we need to feel sorry for her. I was very comfortable with inhabiting all her worst qualities and really digging into the pain. Yeah, well, the pain and justification that she finds in herself to be cruel to Teena. I was very comfortable with that, I felt it was important to make her a human being because sometimes it can be, I think it's simplistic to think violence is always a very clear cut, in that there's a very, very bad person doing bad things. Sometimes someone who means well can become very dark and do really awful things. So yeah, it was important to me that there was balance, nuance, I guess. There were layers.
Yeah. The layers, exactly. There's because they kind of investigate the layers of Tosh when you first meet her mother, because when she has a meal which Teena sets up with Tosh and Tosh's mum, you learn that Tosh had a difficult or a kind of frosty relationship between her and her mother.
Yeah, I mean, the sort of backstory there is that Tosh and Teena have had a very different experience of being LGBT. Like, Tosh has not been accepted by her family, whereas the Carters all very okay with Teena's sexuality, of course, and very loving and nurturing family, you know. Or by and large, even though they're a bit crazy, but, you know, they love it. Say that again, sorry.
Everyone on the square seems a bit crazy, though. So
yeah, you've got to be a little bit crazy. No, in a fantastic way. There's a lot of drama going on, but essentially Carters are a loving family, and Tosh hasn't had that. And that pain and that alienation from her mother, her rejection, her father, is one of the driving reasons behind her anger, her anger and her need to lash out. And I think also her resentment of Teena, because even though she said she was in love with Teena, obviously she wasn't really, because really she was trying to, I think by being with Teena, she felt like, by being with someone who was essentially a very good person, I think Tosh felt better about herself. She was drawn to Teena's light because she was so dark. But also she would take it out on Teena, that Teena maybe hadn't understood how difficult it can be to come out and not be accepted. Teena didn't, in the story we saw, we don't know that Teena's had any of those experiences. So up at that point, in Teena's backstory. So there was a lot of resentment and a lot of jealousy, but it came from a place of pain of her mother and parent rejection, you know, so that was interesting to work with.
Yeah, I think you're right, actually, because obviously Teena was quite a young character in respect of when you joined as Tosh, and from what we knew, Teena had not an easy ride, but had an easier ride than perhaps what Tosh had up until when they met.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, or even if it hadn't been easy from day one, the fact was she had her family around her. Tosh arrived on the square as a completely alone, isolated figure. The only person that she had any connection to was Teena. She didn't even really get on with any of Teena's family. So there's something, you have to look at someone who is such an alone figure, yet has externally such a kind of confident, charismatic, you know, ballsy sort of, you know, from the outside, she looks like someone who's got loads going for her. But if you take a closer look, you see a woman who doesn't really have any friends, who has a partner that she's not very nice to, and lives very almost, you know, she's moved into her partner's house, into her partner's family. It's quite clingy. It's quite sad, really, if you think about it. That's what I enjoyed about Tosh. I saw an aching vulnerability, and I think the writers picked up on that, in that then they moved the storyline in the sort of middle passage of my time there into the thing about the baby, her wanting to start a family, which might seem surprising about a woman who had so much career and, you know, very sort of, not necessarily someone you think of being very domestic, but there's obviously an aching gap in her, a kind of some sort of, you know, absence of love and connection that she
wants to give that love to maybe her baby or as well as Teena together as a unit.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really a woman desperate, but kind of tragic, because what she wanted most, connection, love, family, she wanted it so much she actually ended up pushing away. Like, she was trying to control Teena, and obviously the violence began to come about when she felt jealousy. She felt threatened. So this toxic love was her undoing, because you can't control people, particularly not through physical violence. Yeah, so on that level, there was loads for me to get my teeth into with Tosh. And for me, actually, it was really important that it was that we used it to educate or to sort of shed light on very difficult questions. Yeah, so sorry for sort of...
Oh, no, absolutely. This is great. Honestly, it's lovely. As I say, it's a great having a conversation about Tosh, actually, because, as you say, there's so much to underneath Tosh that perhaps you kind of re-examine Tosh and you see her from not a sympathetic light, but you can more understand why perhaps this is the way she's become.
Yeah, definitely. And I do think it's important, because what I kind of wanted was for somebody who might identify with Tosh, as in when she came on the square, they might think, oh yeah, I get this lady, I like her as well. Or it could be a guy, you know, oh yeah, because she's tough and there's sort of, you know, I wanted them to gradually understand how much they relate to her on a way that might surprise them. So basically, there will be people who are abusive to their partners. They may never have gone to the length that Tosh has, but maybe they're controlling, maybe they are dominant, maybe they are bullying. But I wanted them to get an uncomfortable sense of identification with her. And the only way to do that was to make her human, because we have had, I mean, EastEnders has done domestic violence storylines before, and the famous one, Little Mo and Treble, amazing, hard-hitting, beautifully acted, well, amazingly well acted. But let's face it, nobody, unless you're a complete psychopath, would identify with Trevor, because he was crazy. And Little Mo was an absolute victim. She was sweet and kind and soft, and he ruthlessly exploited that. I wanted with Tosh and her relationship with Teena to be a little bit more nuanced, just because I think the way to change society, change people's behaviour, is to let drama reflect the mirror back at them and go, oh yeah. And no one's going to say, oh, I'm a bit like Trevor. But someone might say, oh, I am a bit like Tosh.
There's that part of her which you can see, isn't it, from her family not accepting her. That's a really relatable thing for some people do at home.
Yeah, and the way that she would, a lot of the dominance of Teena before it got physical would be verbal. So she would like twist Teena's words, make Teena doubt herself, control her through sort of, bullying really. And that can happen in relationships. And obviously it can it's part of human it can be quite normal and it's not really sinister, but it can be escalated to the point where somebody is taking control of somebody else's mind, and it's emotional abuse and psychological abuse. So this storyline had all elements. It was physical, emotional and psychological abuse. And so I felt very passionate.
Yes.
And there was the LGBT angle to it. So we worked with some charities, Broken Rainbows, or a phone line set up to be obviously a port of call for people in same-sex domestic violence, and Stonewall as well. We worked with them, consulted them on the storyline, because it's not given enough, particularly between women and between men. Because people say, well, how can two men having a fight be abuse? It's two men. Or how can two women having a fight be abuse? Surely they're just girls. Girls don't hurt each other. In a way, the programme was quite daring to make Tosh's final assault on Teena quite so brutal, because it was pretty horrific. And, the gloves are off. We said, this is how bad it could be. We want people to take it seriously.
Yeah, I suppose you're absolutely right. It's almost an untapped story where it's a same-sex relationship where someone has this dominance or manipulation over the other one. But as you say, Tosh was portrayed much differently to how Trevor and the Little Mo storyline was portrayed, because Tosh wasn't just, as you say, that black and white character. There was more to her than meets the eye.
I was wondering, taking on this really dark role and filming it like all those long hours, what was it like when the camera stopped and you then had to go home? Do you find it quite easy to detach yourself from that character when you get home?
Yes and no. I mean, I remember filming the scenes where I'd be violent to Teena, particularly the last one. I felt very shaken by it, because I'm having to wind myself up into such an unpleasant place. I'm having to go to a part of my, not that I relate to what Tosh is doing, but I just mean where that sense of rage and anger and vicious resentment, it's not a nice place to inhabit. So I remember being quite shaken. I needed to give Louisa a hug, and we needed to kind of, shake off the day. And then I try and go home and forget about it. But yeah, obviously it's not nice. It leaves like a trace in the body, I think. I suppose that's what you have to do. You kind of, no, but I think it's good, because you, as an actor, that's kind of your job, is to kind of put yourself into those positions. It isn't pleasant, but I was grateful for the opportunity to explore it at night.
Dwelling on it.
Get on the train back to South London. Forget about it, have a glass of wine.
Oh, that's a good idea. You had a few nice scenes, actually, in EastEnders as well. There was notably one with Shirley, where she confronted you when you were at the fire station. And you basically hosed her down. It's a really fun scene. We've actually, I know it's in its context, it's maybe not so funny, but it's interesting to see how even you kind of stood up to Shirley, and she's always seen as like being almost the matriarch of the Carters even then. Was it fun filming scenes with
Linda? Yes, it was. She was very game in that scene, because she had to be blasted by this hose. I mean, they did have a stunt double as well, because it's dangerous, But Linda really had to get in the line of fire and do all this writhing on the floor and be utterly drenched, and she was really great about it. I thought she did a really great performance as well. It was funny. But it is a funny scene. I mean, it's quite surprising, obviously, because as you say, nobody would really get the better of her. But I know that character had comic roots as well, and I think they kind of married the two sides of her, because it was a very sort of like almost comic book, like she stood up like blowing a fringe out of her face, like, oh, I'll get you next time.
It's interesting on that scene too. You can actually see how Tosh has the respect from her peers and in front of her male colleagues at the fire station. She was very strong, and they saw her as very strong, and they looked up to her. Where it's a very male orientated job. Is that something like Tosh would always want to portray herself?
I think actually it's very true to life, because I did a little bit of some research about, and actually there's someone on set who was telling me, who used to be a female firefighter. It's a very, very male dominated. I mean, obviously, but it's a very, very heavily macho world. To be accepted in the crew, you have to work very hard as a firefighter, and also in terms of your rapport with everybody, your bravery, your banter, all that kind of stuff. Because I mean, I wouldn't say this is typical. This particular person had a very bad experience. That's why she left and went to TV production. There was bullying, but that's just one example. And obviously, the fire service, great. I love the fire service. No disrespect to them. But anything where there's an imbalance so heavily in terms of gender and sexuality, not just a woman, she's a gay woman. Okay, I think to survive in that world and to move through and do well in her job, she's had to become quite bulletproof and make the joke first. She's got to be the sort of person who steps in, and she's obviously from that scene, won their respect and they love her. She's probably the smartest mouth, fastest talker, bravest. You have to be the best of the best to survive. But that goes for anyone who's an outsider, and it might be your gender, it might be your sexuality, it might be, I don't know, where you're from, your accent. We all know can relate to that idea of being, if you're the smallest, so you've got to be the funniest.
That's right.
She's battling a few things, a few sort of labels that could be used against her. You're a woman, you're gay, you're mixed race, and she's overcome them all. There's a hugely heroic side to Tosh, I think as well. Yeah, I think the survivor in her, I think her demons, this relationship with Teena just brings out her demons. I'd like to think it's the only time she'll ever do that to somebody. I really would like to think that wherever she is now, she's living happily.
It would be interesting to find out where Tosh is now, because that's something that a lot of people were asking on social media for questions and for people to give a few questions to us. And one of the main ones most people were asking was, if Tosh was to come back, would she go and be with Teena again? Would this relationship work out better?
Well, I'd like to think that if Tosh came back, she'd have learned and would come back to say sorry. I also think that sorry might involve her saying, I won't ask to be your girlfriend again. I think hopefully Tosh would have grown up to realise that relationship is dead. It was toxic for both of them.
I mean, when Tosh left, Tosh said, didn't she? She said, you were the best thing I ever had to Teena. But she kind of, quietly said to herself that she kind of ruined it for herself. So would you think it would be just to come back to apologise to Teena, or would you think she'd fight to get Teena being back?
EastEnders, she'd obviously go and fight to get her back. It's more dramatic than you walk up the square. No, I know. I hear what you're saying. Yeah, of course you could. In the EastEnders universe, Tosh will ride up on a motorbike, amazing, and go, all right, babe, I'm back, and I've been to anger management. I'm feeling good. Let's get back together, and then
let's try it again, shall we?
Yeah, let's have it again. I don't know. It could happen. I don't know. I think the reason for Tosh's absence is she's quite a hard character to rehabilitate without a lot of time passing. So I don't know if they'll ever invite me back. I mean, they did try and have me back for a couple of days. A year or so after I left, I wasn't available to shoot. And to be honest, I would only really want to come back if they were going to give Tosh a few episodes to kind of complete her arc. I want people to know what happened to her afterwards. I mean, I'd like them to know that she learnt her lesson, because my only issue with being left up in the air, I don't mind not being on the show anymore. I had such a great time, and I never want to really look back, But the thing that was left up in the air is, did this person get rid of these issues which make her dangerous? She was a dangerous person. She was violent. She left Teena in a terrible state and wasn't arrested and wasn't charged with anything, and she went off into the public. And I'd like people to know what happened. And again, for the people who might have slightly identified with her, even know that actually, no, she went off and she learnt about herself, and she learnt how it is never excusable to take out your mess with somebody else. That's the thing. Because that's the other flip side of her being so human. Great that she's so human, but let's not end up for 1 minute saying we're just excusing that. And it was, she messed up, it's okay. Really, really bad thing. She should have been to prison.
So you think she should have been had her comeuppance in the end? She should have had that.
Absolutely. She should have been arrested and put in prison for assault. I mean, she very, very savagely beat Teena. I'll be honest about that. I was disappointed because without prosecuting her, we haven't really taken the
No, that's an excellent point. A very excellent point. No, it really is.
I'm never coming back now. They're like, oh.
No. But it would also be very interesting if Tosh was to come out of prison. Would that change anything about Tosh? Would it make her harder? Would it make her more?
Oh, well, gosh, who knows?
Who knows?
The other way.
I mean,
no, I was going to say, well, of course, they could just make her badder and badder and badder. I mean, she'd come out and she's definitely not recovered those issues with Teena, but she's become like a proper crim, like she's an organised crime. Because I wondered if at one point her and Phil Mitchell were going to like go in cahoots, because they had one episode, one scene together. There was some kind of thing there where I think, he was like, he recognised someone who's capable of being a bit of a wrong like him. Gosh, you know what I mean? She's a daredevil. So yeah, in a way, they could apologise to Teena for beating her up, but she's also now a massive like criminal kingpin.
Oh my goodness, this is it. I'm liking this a lot.
She's now like,
I mean, I don't know if you carry on, if you still watch EastEnders, but obviously they had that Aidan storyline recently where he tried to take over the square. So maybe Tosh could come in and try to do the same thing.
Absolutely. I think, well, why not? Why not? She's definitely got the kind of kahunas to do that. And and maybe she could try to take over the Vic. Come on.
Why not? Well, the ultimate revenge on the Carters.
Absolutely. Me and Tosh and Mick squaring off once and for all. Yeah.
They're having a bad time of it at the moment, so I don't think they need anything else to.
Yeah, I think Tosh needs to leave them alone.
So Ben, I see you're sporting a attractive T-shirt there and a baseball cap and drinking your hot coffee from a mug.
Don't forget my apron and my pillow.
Oh, and your pop socket. Yes, and they've all got the same design on them. Some might say it looks quite plain with wearing all of them, but I wouldn't say that. I'd say you look stylish and fashionable.
Queen Vic.
The Queen Vic bust, an exclusive design that was drawn for the EastEnders Weekly Podcast merchandise store, which you can find by going to shop.spreadshirt.co.uk/EastEnders Weekly Podcast.
So enjoy the second part of our interview with Rebecca Scroggs.
I wanted to also, a few people were asking what it was like on like your first day on set, seeing that really famous set of the square and things. What was that like for you to see it and see all these characters that you've been watching on screen for years?
Yeah, it was really surreal, obviously. It was completely bizarre. I sort of got on set, put on this fireman's outfit and was marched onto Albert Square where they've got the Queen Vic. And then they said, there's a fireman there and a whole fire truck and everything. And this guy was like, climb this ladder. And I said, climb this ladder. And then Danny Dye poked his head out the top window of the Vic. I said, all right. And I was like, what am I doing? What is going on here? I don't know if I ever got over it really. It's just completely bizarre when you're going into work and your office is Albert Square. And then you're doing the interior scenes. Well, they've actually changed the set since I was there. It's all a bit different, I think. But when I was there, in this big aircraft hangar with all the interior scenes, so you're sitting in the Carter's kitchen. And then across, a bit like IKEA, actually across the aisle is the laundrette, all laid out ready to go. To be the laundrette when Dot steps on. And then next to that is, someone else's house. And it's all like IKEA, you wander through, there's no walls, And it's like, oh God, I've never done studio television like that to see how it's all sort of, laid out. And so it was just a kick. I got a kick out of it and a buzz. It's hilarious. And meeting these people that have been I used to watch this from a very young age. Really, I'm probably too young actually. And I watched it all the way through till about the early noughties or something. When you get the early 2000s, like year 2000 or something like that.
That's it, isn't it? That's when we have our little gap is when we were first old enough to go out.
Absolutely. Well, I just filmed an episode of Casualty, and I hadn't watched Casualty since I was
my goodness.
16, when suddenly Saturday nights I had better things to do than watch, but up until then it was an absolute, Casualty. Absolutely, Saturday night, I think it was 8 o'clock, whatever it was. Yes, Charlie and Duffy, yes. But EastEnders was similar. It was like, that's Ian Bill. I grew up, and legends everywhere.
Do you all have a lunch break at the same time, or do you all kind of film sporadically throughout so do you get to...
Yeah, there's not a huge amount of mixing just because we're all filming different things. But there is a canteen. where you can go. I used to go there occasionally, and you'd see people sit around at a table with whoever was around, and then there'd be like the whole big cast would be at the next table, and it's all very weird. Everyone's in scrubs there, and we're all like wearing. And there were a couple of social things we did, and we drove to the British Open Awards or the National whatever it was in a big red bus. The whole EastEnders cast on a big red bus. It's like, what's going on here?
Oh, that's amazing.
I've heard they're quite a wild night, the award nights, aren't they?
Oh, yeah. Well.
No comment.
Night out. No comment. We went to the British Soap Awards, I think it was. We all ended up in the same hotel as Hollyoaks. It's really funny. It's like being away on like a school trip. They're all in teams, Oh, Hollyoaks said that we can go back to theirs. Okay, great. Oh, where are you? I'm with some Corrie. Bring them, Have
a couple of Tizers in someone's room, eh?
Yeah, just a couple of Tizers for a while, after eight, and a glass of port, just before bed.
Ready to tuck yourself in for another night of filming?
Absolutely, your birthday crack of dawn.
I mean, the British Soap Awards have just gone bigger and bigger, haven't they? So I suppose that maybe it's cleaned up its act a little bit, but I don't know. I don't think so.
Oh, well, I think that, no, honestly, it's just good fun because obviously it's a work jolly, isn't it? And what is amazing is because when you're in the soap world, it's quite a weird little bubble. Like you're sitting in the same room as dozens of people who also get what it's like to be on these institutional soaps. Corrie obviously get what EastEnders go through, and Hollyoaks, and who else is in there, Doctors, and who else, And so it is a bit of a work jolly, and people just get to socialise and hang out. And some of them, wherever it's filmed, people are either in a hotel or they're in their home city. So it's just a celebration, really. And it's full of crazy characters because a lot of these actors on these shows are just larger than life people. That's why they got the job. They are just performers.
Well, that's it, isn't it? That's what they say acting is. It's just showing off, isn't it?
Well,
I know it's not that. I think it's a lot harder than that. Trust, I can completely sympathise with you guys.
They are also very, very. It's not coal mining.
No, that's true.
I just like to give that disclaimer. Not saving lives, not going down a coal mine, but it is hard work. It's hard work, and there's a lot to it, So it's a craft, and it's graft.
Yeah,
graft.
It's hard graft. Absolutely.
How was it going from theatre to television, like filming wise and work wise? Was it quite difficult, that change in?
It's quite different. It's a whole different, like, sort of. In theatre, obviously, the rehearsal process is kind of the 4 or 5 weeks. You're, in a room exploring, picking something apart, and going over it again and again and again, and deepening your relationship with your fellow actors. And telly can feel quite brutal, and so you're thrown in set. The rehearsal really is just while you're sorting out the technical. Obviously, if you've got questions, you can ask questions, but really, you're moving forward very fast, and then it's kind of throw it out and see what happens. I mean, with EastEnders, one thing about EastEnders is because it's filmed multi-camera, so you've got, like, when you're inside, you've got up to 4 cameras filming you. So you basically just run the scenes again and again and again, and the cameras are picking you up. And so it's a little bit more like theatre, without the audience. You're just doing the scene from beginning to end. You just start, okay, do it again, do it again, do it again. So EastEnders is quite interesting in that. I think that's where you get the naturalism and the kind of relaxation, and the actors are just sort of rolling over the scene. Other shows, most shows are shot on single camera. It's pointing at a certain direction, and then the shot sizes get bigger and smaller, bigger and smaller, and it's all turned around on the other actor. And there the pace is slower. You're not turning over as many scenes, but you're working shot sizes. So you might be like modifying your acting a bit, like, oh, it's my close up now, so I'm gonna, like, I don't know, dig a little deeper, or there's a whole other technical thing going on. But I really enjoy the contrast. That said, I'm now really looking forward to it because I've just done 2 tellies now back to back, Black and this Casualty and now I'm going to do a play, and I'm so excited.
Yes, we're going to talk about the play. I mean, it's at the Sheffield Crucible, is that right?
Crucible, yeah, that's right, yeah. And it's a 2-hander, and it's a really interesting play. So it's very, like, a local play about Sheffield, really, about Sheffield and the sort of political movements up there, the kind of more working class community and the Labour Party. It's a comedy, though, I have to say. It's not too heavy. It's just about outsiders coming into a tight-knit community and how that can be perceived, and how the sort of right and wrong way of doing that. Like, one of the characters sort of bulldozes in and offends everyone. The other one maybe doesn't shout loud enough.
Right, because it's about 3 decades, isn't it, of women in politics? Is it?
Yeah, it was set between, basically there's only 2 actors in the play, myself and the guy called Nigel Betts, who's from Emmerdale, I think. And we will play 2 characters each. One strand is in 1989, where Josie is trying to become a local councillor. She's from Sheffield, but she's young, she's mixed race, and therefore she's in 1989 could be perceived as a little bit of an outsider to the mainstream like Labour Party movement. In 2018, Vanessa Gallagher is an MP from London, but born in Sheffield, but she really doesn't have any connection to Sheffield apart from that. She's coming up to stand to be their local mayor, the Metro Mayor.
Yeah.
Like Andy Burnham is in Manchester. She's standing to be that in Sheffield. But she brings with her a very like London-centric point of view and way of being and doing. And there's a little bit condescending about the North and the community and old-fashioned Labour values. She's again a woman of colour and she's young and, so she's progressive and really liberal. But it's just in some ways where some of the comedy comes from her just sort of bulldozing through. But then again, it's about the resistance that communities can have to new ideas and stuff. And kind of nothing's really resolved. It's all just up in the air, like, no moral to the tale.
Is it slightly satiristic or is it?
Yeah, it is, particularly with Vanessa because she's so sort of like London and she drinks her big cups of coffee and she's like, oh, she has to make it at home because she can't get a decent cup of coffee in the north. And there's that, she's saying stupid things and she's very sort of like, she's not in a relationship. She's a polyamorous pansexual kind of thing. Which is fantastic, but she's saying this to this kind of rather traditional Yorkshireman who's like, what are you talking about?
What's this word you're saying?
What is all this? This is nonsense. So, there's a sort of satire of, the kind of language or, cultures in this country. We've got people speaking completely different languages talking about the same thing.
Yeah. It's almost, it's also maybe a generation gap there where the young people say words and the older people, and they're just like, what the heck are you talking about?
Yeah, very much so. She's in her 30s and the guy she is working off is in his 50s or 60s. So there's a big gap there. So, yeah, very much so, yeah.
That's fantastic. And have you started rehearsals for that? I presume you have.
No, I'm not. I start on Monday the 13th of August. So I've got to move up to Sheffield for a couple of months. I'm looking forward to it. I've heard really great things about it, the place. Get my digs sorted. And yeah, that's good. It's going to be great. And I'll see when I get back what comes up. And Black's going to be aired early 2019. Looking forward to that. It's a really great show.
Yeah, that's on UK TV, isn't it, in the UK? It's going to be on...
Yes, which kind of makes Dave and weird... Well, they've never made their own TV before. They usually show reruns. This is their first project. It's an incredible piece. Anna Paquin, if you know her from being an X-Men, from being in True Blood, being amazing people. Alan Davis is in an episode, Max Beasley, Sophie Okonedo is in it throughout. We've got a guy who was in The West Wing in an episode. Like it's a glossy, funny, smart, slick show about celebrity PR. It's very funny, and I play another gay character, which is just an honour. I'm actually, as it happens, heterosexual, but I often play gay women. It's great. And I'm her sort of Anna Paquin's, old flame.
Oh, so another old flame coming in too.
Another old flame coming in.
What's going on?
It's a bit nicer than Tosh. No fisticuffs.
No.
Much more balanced. Reese is in control of herself. She's got it together.
And has your new episode of Casualty been aired yet, or is that still?
No, I've literally just shot it last week, so it'll be out in November the 3rd. I think I saw on November the 3rd. Yes. So that is a pregnant woman, not straight pregnant woman. Weirdly enough, when I did an episode of Holby, I also played a pregnant woman. So I don't know what's going on. Some memos are going around in the BBC about what I can't play, pregnant or gay. Not both at the same time at the moment. Could happen. Watch out.
Do you, because obviously Casualty, Holby City, EastEnders, do you audition for these, or because the producers kind of talk to one another and say, oh, we really want, Rebecca to do this role?
I've still been through auditions, but I certainly knew. In fact, I kind of got EastEnders out of doing an episode of Doctors, I was told. And I did this episode. And the BBC casting department watch Doctors. They have it on in their office because they every episode of Doctors, there's at least 4 guest artists on it. So they keep an eye to see who's around. And they saw me doing this character. And they were, she looks great for this new regular EastEnders. So called me in for that. So it was a very warm audition when I auditioned for EastEnders. And then basically did one audition and then came back for a sort of recall, but I kind of had the job basically by the time I recalled, which was amazing. I mean, they didn't tell me that till after, but I kind of, Louisa actually, she's so funny. When she read with me my recall, and then she walked down the stairs to me, she was like, "You're the only person they're seeing. I wasn't supposed to tell you that, but I said it now. Oops."
Oh, that's fantastic.
That's what you want to hear though, isn't it?
And I was like, "You're joking?" She's like, "Yeah, and that went really well, so you've got the job." And I was like, "You're joking? I've just got a job on EastEnders." She's like, "Yeah, but you're not supposed to know that." But yeah, I do audition for them. But when you've just done some work, yeah, they're looking upon you favourably. But you still have to. I mean, I suppose one day I might get to the point where they just dish me out jobs. That'd be
lovely, wouldn't it?
That's every actor's dream, to get the offer. There's an offer come through, your agent says. It's like the best moment. It's like, what? No audition?
Yeah. Just roll into the role and.
Exactly, that's it. They want you. Yeah, one day.
I'm sure it will. It's honestly, it's fantastic. I'm really looking forward to seeing this new series of Flack and the episode of Casualty, which she says November the 3rd. They all sound amazing.
Well, I've had a good time this year. Yeah, it's been really fun. Really fun. So long may it continue.
Oh, exactly. Fingers crossed.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had anything you wanted to do where you think this is like my next dream role? Is there something you haven't been able to do yet that you'd quite like to be involved?
Well, yeah, my kind of guilty pleasure, but my guilty ambition would be anything in Game of Thrones, which isn't going to happen because obviously it's finished. But then I want to be like a queen. And they're going to do loads of spin-offs, I hear, of different worlds and different, those countries. I want to be a queen in one of these new worlds and ride a horse and, cast.
Oh yeah, that sounds fantastic fun.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do. And apart from that, I also want to play like a Shakespearean, lead act role kind of thing. So classical theatre or some really fun telly.
Yeah.
Of filming abroad where I ride a horse.
You got the horse. It's all about the horse.
Do you ride horses then? Well, is that a hobby of yours?
Not since I was a little kid, but a lot of girls dream about riding horses, and I grew up watching costume dramas, and so I kind of wanted to wear a corset and ride a horse, but it doesn't come up very often, depending on your casting, you kind of, not going to make it into Poldark. So, I'm like, I want to exercise that bit of me that is like wants to. Well, I either be a damsel on a horse or a kick-ass queen.
I think you'd make a queen better. Yeah, you'd suit the queen. I think. Yeah, you're no damsel. You're no damsel.
No, I think not. Yeah.
Fantastic. So we're going to just ask a couple more questions, if we can just kind of about from our social media. Just a couple.
Yeah, sure.
Kate McDevitt asks, what scene did you find most upsetting to film for EastEnders?
Oh, well, probably wasn't the final scene, but one of the final scenes when I had to, attack Teena. That was very upsetting. It really wasn't very nice.
It's a very hard scene to watch. I mean, we watch things, and that scene is incredibly difficult to watch.
Yeah, it's horrible, isn't it?
But it's great. It's well portrayed as well.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's sort of, what do you call it? Sort of, Poison Chalice. Like, it's great that it's so hard to watch, but that made it hard to film. But I felt really nasty after that. I suppose you are always accessing parts of yourself in a way. I mean, you're revealing something about what you might look like if you were pushed to that anger. But anyway, so that was difficult. I also want to say, because we've already just talked about that scene a bit, I feel like some of the scenes where Tosh was very upset about the baby. Now, they weren't as difficult in the same way as that scene, but there was stuff when, she lost her baby. Yeah,
there's a different side you have to tap into, isn't it? That really emotive
despair, and I don't have children myself, so just accessing her need really was difficult. I think actually, honestly, that was a real acting challenge. Probably more than the violence, weirdly, was to access someone who wanted a baby that desperately. Personally, I would have thought that she was in such a great place, or it wasn't the right time, but this was some trigger in her mind that told her that now was the time to have a baby. That was quite hard to get my head around. I didn't really, when they told me she was going to want a baby, I wasn't really that on board with it. But really?
Oh, really?
Oh, no, fair enough. It's great. It's all great. It's all, that's meaty. I was like, oh, really? Oh, okay. Because I just wanted to carry on exploring Teena and Tosh between themselves. And also Tosh as a woman, as a career woman. She didn't put out a single fire. Let me just make that point.
She gave it a good go.
Yeah.
I was a bit galled by that because there was a fire on the squares, and it was put out by Ben and Ian's son, and I was like, hang on a minute, what? Not even one bit of Tosh checked people's vital signs when they were brought out of the building.
Yeah, she did. She made sure.
Peter, yeah. So she was doing first aid, but I was like, there is a fire. The square's resident firefighter is nowhere near it. In fact, I was wearing like a skirt, and it was a summer day. I was wearing like a pencil skirt and a bikini top. I was basically most unprepared to fight a fire. I was like, this is really not fair. So I would have actually preferred Tosh to have some firefighting.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was doing all this firefighter exercise stuff. I was learning how to be firefighter fit.
That's a spin-off, isn't it? You could have like London Burning with Tosh.
Yeah. Maybe she could go into Holby as a firefighter, like who they...
Well, like a crossover, and EastEnders.
Right. Yeah, she could do a crossover. She can move to wherever the fictional city of Holby and be like the firefighter that you see occasionally. You know, she wouldn't be in every episode, but she'd pop up occasionally. You know, when people are fires or out of it.
You get her redemption.
Yeah.
Save a few lives.
I think that's the secret. Because I don't know if they can redeem her on EastEnders, but she could pop up on another show.
There you go.
Right, so.
John York. Well, that's not John York's decision. He's running EastEnders now. Who runs Holby? Put it out there. You guys must have contact.
Oh, we'll use we'll use our contact.
Can I prefer Casualty? I actually, having just worked in it, I really liked it down there, so I'd like to go back. Can you put other feeders out that I'd like to be that in Casualty?
I tell you what, we'll put it when we tweet. We'll put a few feelers out, as you say, when we say that we interviewed you. We'll make a big deal about it. Don't you worry.
Sorry, you had more questions.
No, it's great. It's lovely.
We had a question from Brendan, who wanted to know, obviously, because you were a villain on EastEnders, sometimes you don't always get the best reaction from fans. Did you receive any sort of bad reactions from fans or fan mail that wasn't quite?
Okay. None at all. Really? I got, I mean, I'm not saying I was university loved. One time I did a search on Twitter. I searched my name or Tosh's name on Twitter. Immediately realised you never do that. No. Don't ever go looking for comments about you. I think, to be fair, one person once sent a negative comment with using my Twitter handle, so I couldn't avoid looking at it. And it was just something really petty and silly and schoolboy. Apart from that, to my face, and in the letters I've ever received, unless my agent's burning some, I've only ever received support, and which is just a testament to the writing of the character and that they managed to make her human. People will often write, "Oh, she was very difficult to watch, and it was a very, complex storyline and uncomfortable at times." They're not saying, "Oh, I love her; she's amazing; she's my hero." They're saying that she was, complex and difficult. But I have not received any of the. I've heard infamous, legendary abuse and vilification that some people do, and it might be where I live. I live in right central London. I live in Brixton, and it's a very Afro-Caribbean area. And this sounds like a real generalisation. So many fans in that community of the show, particularly being from the community myself, I more often would get stopped in the street to congratulate me on my good fortune and my hard work and everything like that. That was their main thrust. It was like, yeah, go on, girl. Go on, local girl. And then they might say, oh, that Tosh she's a bit of a one. Yeah, she is. But that was my experience. Now, if you went to other parts of the country, or I don't know, I think Louise used to say when she was out, she lived in, I won't say where, but outside of London. Well, obviously, and obviously, if you're going to meet the actress, you're obviously going to be on her side. So she would get lots of people telling her how much they hated me. And that's just fair enough.
But in a way, that's what it shows a credit to you and the writing of the character of Tosh, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's showing that people were actually seeing that human side to her, which was the most important.
Yeah, it wasn't two-dimensional. It was obviously two-dimensional enough that people responded to her as a human being. So people need to heap abuse on me. But as I say, search Tosh on Twitter, probably a different story. But I went green. I was like, oh my God.
Oh no.
From everything from my appearance to my acting, to what I think of the character. Twitter can be a nasty, murky place. But that's why I don't go looking for it.
Just let it go. Positive. Yeah.
You're actually right. Just ignore it, or just don't go out looking for it.
If people haven't sent it to you directly, then you don't need to see it.
Completely.
My advice to anyone: trolling is a real thing, and often people don't have any choice. It's sent to their inbox, and they have their feet. They have absolutely no choice.
I mean, it's when they do it directly. It's a bit uneasy, isn't it?
It's horrible. It's really hard. It's bullying.
Absolutely.
Don't tell me I'm ugly.
Oh, bless you. No.
It's funny when you realise people waste their time.
Well, that's right. They're wasting so much effort just to do something like that. It's just unnecessary. Do it on something more productive. Help people out rather than, anyway.
And we had one last question, which was, if you were going to speak to your younger self, what advice would you give them to get sort of into the acting career? What's that one bit of advice that you'd give the young guys listening?
Oh, okay. So I'm thinking about this because it's quite a good question. Because, I think, there could be things I did differently. Trust in the future, trust in yourself, work on your craft, worry about the acting, everything else will take care of itself. Don't worry about career. Don't waste any time. Enjoy and act and act as much as you can and find ways to get better. If you don't know how to get better, go and ask someone how to get better. Everyone can get better. Not be hard on yourself, but like really be a student of acting, and then things will just fall into place. Because if you send that sort of energy out, it will be met.
Yeah. You put positive things out, positive things come back to you.
Definitely. It takes care of itself.
Fantastic, lovely. So just to quickly go over then, so you're at the Crucible Theatre in Sheffield with the play Steel from the 13th of September to the 6th of October. Excellent. And you're obviously, we can catch you on TV in Casualty in November, and you're in the TV series Flack, which is coming soon, which is very
yeah, I think hopefully February next year. That's the latest. Obviously it could be a bit later than that, but hopefully February.
Fantastic. Lovely.
Can't wait.
Yes, brilliant. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much again for letting us say hello to you and have a chat.
And impose on your holiday.
Yes, and impose on your holiday. We'll let you... Is it sunny where you are? Because it's very sunny here.
Really, really hot. I mean, it's hot in England, I know. It's really hot here. 37 degrees.
Oh my goodness.
I think today. But no, I just want to say that the reason I jumped at this chance is because, weirdly enough, I spent the week on Casualty and talking to fellow actors I was meeting, and people were like, "Oh, you sent this a while ago now." I was like, "Yeah, it is a while ago. It's like 4 or 5 years ago. Isn't that funny how time flies?" Tosh was very much in my mind, and then I checked my Twitter and saw this message. I thought, you know what? I would like to talk about Tosh because I haven't actually spoken about Tosh for years. I thought actually it felt very, again, it's like, I don't know, universe.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, let's have a chat. Let's download Tosh and like deal with that and explore her because kind of a chapter that closed a while ago now.
But it's a chapter that perhaps may reopen.
Well, we've put it out there, haven't we? We've got the option
now, so that's it.
Comes back reformed, comes back as a criminal kingpin.
I know, so many plans.
Turns up on Casualty. That's the 3 plans.
You have to free up your calendar.
A 3-pronged plan.
Yeah, 3 points. Got to cover the bases.
But no, I bet it's nice and cathartic, isn't it, to look back on something you've done before and just to discuss it again.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, I really enjoyed myself. So thank you for having me on.
Well, there we go. So I remember when we recorded that, and it was just so great having to speak to Rebecca Scroggs. She was all the way in France. She was on holiday.
I know.
We interrupted her break just so we could talk to her about the soap. But she was so great. She was a really good interview and really friendly and really accepting to, get involved and want to talk to us. It was really fun.
Yeah, very nice, very forthcoming. So
that's it. Very forthcoming.
Told us everything we wanted to know.
That's it, and more. A little bit too personal, some might say.
Yeah, that's on the explicit edit,
which only we have. We for a small cost, we might release it. Maybe that could be if we ever start a Patreon channel.
If we meet £1 million.
Of course, if you enjoyed that, you can listen to our podcast, which is released every Sunday. It's our EastEnders Omnibus, where we talk about the show, features, games. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, or YouTube. Twitter @EastEndersWeek, Instagram @EastEnders Weekly Podcast, email eastendersweekly@gmail.com, or just search EastEnders Weekly Podcast on Facebook.
There you go. So we await our next interview. Lorna Fitzgerald, I'm still looking at you.